hands under the law.
A river will flow, boom, 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 boom. A river will flow. I love that song. It's a revival song. I got it from a Rodney Howard Brown meeting I went to. Hallelujah, back in the day. Hey, listen, this show, I'm doing this right now, right after Flashpoint. It's why I'm dressed up like a newscaster. And we just did a show with Jesse Duplantis and Hank and Tony Vasquez. So here's the deal with Gene Bailey. And I'm thinking about the news right now that we didn't get to cover on the show because there was some stuff going on. For instance, the jury in New York. You can't get a fair trial in Washington, D.C. or New York. I'm going to pace myself now. You can't get a fair trial because these people, as Tim Pool says, if you're in a jury group and you're in New York where the mafia environment, or in D.C., which is 98% Democrat dominated, you don't want to be the person on the jury whose name gets leaked out that resisted convicting Trump when everybody is against Trump. This has to be challenged at some point. The lawlessness, call it out for what it is. Bannon cannot get a fair trial in Washington, D.C. Do you realize how dangerous this is? You can now get charged for something you never did. And if you can bring it, and if a DA hates you because you're a political asset he wants to take out, he could charge you with a crime you haven't done, cause you to show up in a place where the jury's rigged, and then fine you, lock you up, or silence you. This is the kind of situation America will not tolerate. The reason why I'm optimistic about the future of America is because I'm convinced the average American is center-right in terms of values and overall disposition regarding fairness. Just think of Joe Rogan or Bill Maher or Elon Musk. Don't think about our crowd. We're way on the right. Think about the people in the middle who are now looking like they're on the right because the nation is getting taken over by wackos, wacky people. I'm going to say I think it's demonic influence, which means they're under the influence of spiritual forces. The Bible talks about doctrines of demons. Well, what do you think the whole transgender ideology play is, or the racial issues are? It's teachings of sophisticated demons meticulously calculated to deceive. You got to be careful what you listen to. Take heed what you hear. Take heed how you hear. Two things Jesus said: you got to be careful what you're listening to. You got to be careful how you process what you hear. I'm going to play something from Tucker in a minute. Good old Tucker's coming back. Woo, woo, Tucker's coming back. I need my train whistle up here, Mercedes, so I can play my woo, woo, because I hear that train a-coming. Anyway, speaking of taking heed what you hear, take heed what you eat. Now, I'm not going to get myself in trouble. I'm not going to get banned right now. I'm thinking about those YouTube bannings I've gone through. Don't you know I've gone through great trauma, 200,000 lashes. They took away my whole audience, and I have to rebuild step by step patiently.
We just got another hit, too.
I just got another hit on YouTube? For what? What did I do now?
It was in a live video that you did. I have no makeup on today. But it was in a live video that you did on stage, and you mentioned something medically related. So
on stage, meaning it was one of my live public meetings?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, our team's got to do what Tim Pool does. They say something crazy and salacious, then they immediately take it down, but they get the digital jizz from the line. See,
YouTube's kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway, where they make up the rules and the points don't matter. So it's like they'll just make up a rule later on that's going to get you dinged.
You know what? Check out Mike Davis, Article 3. You know what that is? That's the vengeance of God on Google, on the horizon coming, like a cloud the size of a man's hand. It's going to be raining in the big text if we can ever get back, if we can ever have that moment, that surge of righteous alignment among the masses, the populist movement rising up in its fury, bringing down from the high places these anarchists that are destroying the economy and flooding the borders with dangerous people. Which brings me to a word from our sponsor. Take heed what you hear, take heed how you hear, and take heed what you eat. You know, I've heard about chemicals that are being put into meat. I've heard about things that are being injected into meat, and it's weird what they're doing with cows. I guess, you know, there's a whole movement among the elites and the Davos crowd that wants us to eat meat, and we've got food processing plants, chickens by the thousands, cows by thousands, being mysteriously burned up and destroyed by what I believe is environmental and economic terrorism in the United States, which I know I'm sounding a bit Alex Jonesy here, but I'm telling you, something weird's going on. I had to hunt down one place, though, Good Ranchers. Good Ranchers has made a decision that they are not going to allow any poisons, any chemicals, any injections, any government activity to get into the food supply of their meat. In fact, you can pre-order your meat and have it sent to your house knowing that it's unmanipulated. There's nothing in it that's going to show up later on and freak you out. And Mercedes, what do they got next? They always have some kind of special going. It's lancewallnau.com/Good Ranchers. Do this, but what do they got right now for Mother's Day?
They have a Mother's Day special going on, and it's 2 pounds of high-quality, easy-to-cook salmon and $25 off if you use the code Mother's Day. So join the movement. And visit Good Ranchers.
I love that. Except it's salmon you're talking about.
No,
which
I know, but
apply.
you were talking about cows and you said movement, and I was like, movement.
Movement. Well, it shows how late it is. Mercedes is up past her bedtime. Past your TikTok time, young lady. All right, listen. We're going to go right now. But do that, Good Ranchers. I'm serious about this. It's great. I found out about it from I think it was Ben Shapiro or somebody I heard it from. All right, jury in New York finds, I just want to say this. $5 million they fined Trump for get this, he's awarded this woman, Jean Carroll, for something that happened 3 decades ago. She's not sure when, she's not sure what year. How about this? You can bring someone up on charges that they raped you and not even remember what year it happened. Just 30 years later, yeah, you know what, when I was younger. This is like the Kavanaugh thing, right? She's awarded $5 million in civil damages, but why? It's not because they could prove that Trump ever did anything. It's because Trump defamed her. In other words, this is a woman's reaction to Trump talking bad about a woman who accused him of rape, and then he trash talks the woman and says, why would I even be, get involved with a woman like that? And so she suffered psychological, injury because Trump is so rude and callous in describing her. And then if you ever see this little interview he does with this woman's attorney. And he says, look, she's not my type. I mean, even 30 years ago, at my worst day, there's a certain, frankly, she's not my type. And to be honest with you, you're not my type either. Oh, my God. Sorry. You got to say to yourself, there's only one Donald Trump. He insults it's a female lawyer. You sent that to me. Where's that from? It's his deposition?
It was so funny. Yeah, it was his deposition. They released it. And, yeah. And he goes, well, frankly, it's not politically correct. It's not she's not my type, and you're not my type either. And it makes him more endearing for some strange reason.
Yeah, because he's just being honest. But what they did was they played the Access Hollywood video, audio. From 10 years ago. It's sort of like the devil, Let's go back to the scene of the crime when Peter denied Jesus, 15 years ago. That the guy you want in your pulpit? And so Trump they played the Access Hollywood video. And then, and wait for it. Trump says, his lawyers go, did you even look for surveillance footage? Is there surveillance footage? Oh, yes, this store has surveillance footage on archive of who comes in and who goes out. There's only one entrance, one exit. And did she ask for any surveillance footage? Did her lawyers ask for it to prove that Trump was even there? He says he was never even there. She never asked for it. You know what? She didn't have to. It could have created a problem if they couldn't find it. So Trump said, can't you produce any of that evidence that I was ever there? No evidence that it was there. He said, well, can my lawyers basically cross-examine you? The lawyers were forbidden to cross-examine her. But then in an unprecedented display of absolute mutilated justice, the judge did something which no judge does. They said, bring in any testimony we ever had against Trump about him being a wild bachelor or, a single guy. And so what you can't typically do in a court case is allow the legal team to bring negative testimony about you, unrelated to the trial, just to slander you in the court, so that people develop a general sense of, yeah, this is really a bad guy. Then you're not allowed to bring up. I was once in jury duty, and the guy had a rap sheet of 40 different things he was arrested for. Now it's his 41st time altercation with a policeman. They were not allowed to discuss with us any of the previous 40 incidents. Could have been 40 incidents with policemen. We wouldn't know. They weren't allowed. In Trump's case, any incident was allowed to be discussed by witnesses. So Trump says, I have absolutely no idea who this woman is. The verdict is a disgrace. All of this is a continuation of a witch hunt. He didn't show up to defend himself because he didn't want to have that footage put out there for everybody to manipulate, as they would with Media Matters. But these jurisdictions that are controlled by the Democratic Party are compromised. And the extremist left wing of the political apparatus hired by Soros will go after anyone. And so our nation is really in serious trouble. But I know you know that. And I believe that these things are nothing compared to what's about to come down on the Biden White House. This is small potatoes, as Hyman Roth would say in Godfather 2, small potatoes. Because the real fish fry is what's happening with Hunter. Okay, Mercedes, you got your hand waved over there. By the way, you can like and subscribe, because I don't know, I'm gonna keep doing these evening live shows. I'm gonna keep doing them because I think it's good to go live. I think it's good to rant. I can do it here. I can do it at home. You're not going to get any video footage and any other special effects, but we could do this. But I need your comments, because Mercedes reads the comments. Yes, that's right. YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and whatever platform this is on. You read it. Real America's Voice. Where it's Real America's Voice. They've
got comments there too. We get comments all over the place. We get comments there.
Real America's Voice. Please, we're reading your comments. I actually sit up at night. I'm a lonely man. I just sit there and read comments all night, and I respond to them. And by the way, people go, "Is that you?" If it's a response from me, I don't personally message people asking you for money. Like, I've got some, like I'm struggling in Uruguay and can't get out of the country and need you to send me cash. So it's all those things are fictitious. But I do reply to your comments. Go ahead, Mercedes. You're waving me down. What do you want? I have a show I'm doing here.
I see the clock running. So I was like, and do you want a question now, or you could keep going? But what I was thinking is that is a great team dynamic, is that when you go live, you don't always read the comments. So, but Lisa, I think it's Millman. She says, so what can Trump do? Can he appeal? So what is Trump's legal recourse here, Lance? Does he have any option?
Well, that's what bothers me. He was asking for a mistrial, and he was asking for for the judge, but the judge refused to hear that. Does he have an appeal process? I am not sure. I'd like to be able to answer that. I can only tell you that the judge this judge, who's his Clinton-appointed judge, New York judge, as bad as they get, has overturned the appeal of Trump in terms of the trial itself. So
it's so angering. I can't, if I think about it too much, I get really angry.
You don't the Bible talks about. Says they're going to drop another indictment on him in addition to the DA. This is the big one with Braggs, by the way. There's another one coming from Fulton County, Georgia, on his election interference. Dershowitz says that's going nowhere. It's going to be dead when it arrives. But they're going to keep on. They're going to listen, man. This is lawfare. These are harpoons coming at the man, bleeding his stamina, bleeding him emotionally. And so understand, nobody's been attacked like this guy. It's like a bull in the arena, like in the spin, and they're just stabbing and stabbing and stabbing. That's why I'm a critic of the critics of Trump, because this guy stepped into the breach, actually answering kind of like the call of God, if you don't mind me putting it this way. The reason why we're winning anything is because of the Supreme Court and the laws that they passed and the things that they've championed, from pro-life to the Kennedy case to the Lemon Law being overturned to what they're doing now with the Chevron case. You guys don't know the degree to which Trump has built a wall of protection around American freedoms through the court. That alone is an act of God's sovereign grace and what this man is still accomplishing through his short period when they impeached him twice and lied about him in the intelligence committee and tried to take him out of office. I'm going to stop right here and come back in a much better state of mind because I'm going to segue into Tucker Carlson. And Tucker tickles me tonight because he's coming back on a Tucker Twitter rant. Talk to you in a minute.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You often hear people say the news is full of lies, but most of the time that's not exactly right. Much of what you see on television or read the New York Times is in fact true in the literal sense. It could pass one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true. It's not true. At the most basic level, the news you consume is a lie of the stealthiest and most insidious kind. Facts have been withheld on purpose, along with proportion and perspective. You are being manipulated. How does that work? Let's see. If I tell you that a man has been unjustly arrested for armed robbery, that is not, strictly speaking, a lie. He may have been framed. At this point, there's been no trial, so no one can really say. But if I don't mention the fact that the same man has been arrested for the same crime 6 times before, am I really informing you? No, I'm not. I'm misleading you. And that's what the news media are doing in every story that matters, every day of the week, every week of the year. What's it like to work in a system like that? After more than 30 years in the middle of it, we could tell you stories. The best you can hope for in the news business at this point is the freedom to tell the fullest truth that you can. But there are always limits. And you know that if you bump up against those limits often enough, you will be fired for it. That's not a guess, it's guaranteed. Every person who works in English language media understands that. The rule of what you can't say defines everything. It's filthy, really, and it's utterly corrupting. You can't have a free society if people aren't allowed to say what they think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
That is exactly the kind of news that I want to hear. That's the good news. And the reason why this excites me right now is because it's the Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson alliance. I want you to see how, if you wanted to see the invisible hand of God, this is how you look at it. Elon, it dumped, $40 billion into Twitter. And it took a wash, but it was for freedom of speech. He saved a platform that was compromised, as we now know, by the intelligence communities, not only planting stories and suppressing speech, but reading the private conversations of American conservatives and tracking what they were doing. Understand the intelligence community is to a great extent under the cloud of this demonic Marxist spirit that is at work in the Progressive Democrat Party, with the strange apathetic indifference of the majority of the Republican Party. There is an ominous alignment of justice departments and CIA and FBI and NSA to monitor you as an extremist and suppress your freedom, to track what you do, to put FBI agents into Catholic churches because of the danger. As we know, the Catholic Church is so dangerous. Those people with their rosary beads, who knows when they're going to attack you, like some kind of karate move. This is the dysfunction in the brain of a government that endorses a role model in the Nuclear Regulatory Commission who is a man who cross-dresses as a woman and has a fetish stealing luggage. This is a sick administration. And I believe that, if you don't mind me saying so, that Tucker resonates with a large part of America because he really doesn't have a dog in this hunt. He's like a John Solomon when he's doing the news. He's simply following the story courageously. Now, he said something, when you bump up against the limits, bump the limits enough, Rupert Murdoch will fire you. Yeah, he did it with the January 6th story. When have we ever had McConnell and Schumer together, arm in arm? There's your deep state uniparty. This has to stop. They want the narrative of an insurrection because that's how they frame the story that Trump and you are dangerous. You get it? I think you do. I think you get it, and I think I get it, and I think that's the reason why we're poised for an awakening that'll be a revolution to upset the revolution that's taking place. Somebody said to me recently, they said, people aren't aware. I think it was Victor Davis Hanson, a scholar no less than Victor Davis Hanson, has said a Jacobin revolution, similar to the French Revolution, where the extremists took over, has taken place in America. The revolution has happened in a stolen election, in the taking over of, in the control of media, and the suppression of truth and stories in academia. A revolution has already been launched and successfully taken over the institutions. But I believe as Americans wake up to it, they're going to fight back. They're going to push back. And it's people like Tucker that I think are going to do that. You know, one of the reasons why Elon got involved with buying Twitter, and the reason one of the interesting things about Tucker aligning with Elon is because he recognizes a free speech guy. They're shutting down the intelligence community and the fake propaganda news outlets from being able to manipulate Twitter as though these are real stories in a real echo chamber discussing real issues. They're manipulating the dialogue. Guys like Tucker and Elon, this is how I know God hasn't given up on America yet. We have our heroes rising up. And if you ever wonder, America, when you pray, well, where's it going? Keep yourself in faith, keep yourself in hope, because it may not be the deliverance as fast as you wanted. I'm sure if you were grinding out in the Civil War, you would have said, is this ever going to end? Lincoln didn't even think it was going to get reelected. But then things turned. World War II, Hitler looked like he was taking over the world. But then things turned. And in America right now, things are turning. And Babylon Bee, by the way, which is a kind of a satirical group of tongue-in-cheek Christian journalists who aren't afraid to poke fun at what they observe as the bizarreness in American culture and in the church. Elon Musk actually was watching them, and when they got deplatformed and silenced for taking a stand on, what was it? It was Woman of the Year with General Levine there. Yeah. And then they said, you know, there was a Man of the Year award or something they gave, or I don't know what the reward. Yeah. But anyway, it was enough to offend the Twitter mob, and so they were deplatformed until they recanted, and admitted their blasphemy, and they refused to do it. Elon came to their defense then, and I think that's what got him involved with the Twitter wars. So I'm going to take a Babylon Bee moment now, and then let me bring up a Babylon Bee image I thought was kind of interesting. New York has banned the use of gas stoves and asked why. The New York Times produced footage that found the gas stove participating in the January 6th riot. And the reason I wanted to tell you why this is funny is because the New York Times and these magazines and these outlets will produce evidence to support any narrative they've got. Now, the other story I thought was hilarious is you got image 10 there? CNN fires Don Lemon again, just to make sure that Don Lemon's been fired. And this is unfortunate that the story got lost, because when Tucker went, poor Don Lemon, he doesn't even get the dignity of a conversation when he's taken off the air. What's happening is kind of curious. CNN is trying to track towards, remember it's under new management, they're trying to track towards the center because they're losing market share to Fox, and they know it. Fox is trying to get away from being the satisfactorily sole, unique branded outlet for the MAGA group that forgave them for their Arizona call that they did early in the election when they shouldn't have called it for Biden. And so they want to move from the right. I mean, the opposite here on television. But so they want to move from the right to the middle. And so you're seeing something I just want you all to catch in the audience. The media outlets that are smart, from CNN to Fox, they're trying to become more centrist because they recognize that there's a price that they're paying by niching their audience out. The problem is, if they don't navigate intelligently, they don't understand the degree of resolve and anger that exists, not on the left. The left is perpetually, I call them pissed off progressive. It's pop culture, pissed off progressive culture. It's pop. But they're angry about everything. They're an unhappy, miserable group. Nothing worse than a perennial leftist, because everything bothers them. But on the right, they're basically law-abiding, tax-paying, now and again, God-honoring church folks, and or just plain old conservatives that just wish the world wasn't wacky. They're not extremists, and they don't like being labeled as extremists. They don't like having woke culture forced down their throat. They're all for anybody having their way. Do what you want to do. But if they're drinking Bud Light, don't shove the transgender narrative in their face. That's the mistake Bud Light made, and I'm afraid that Fox made a mistake too. They didn't realize that there is a constituency of Americans, I don't know how large it is, maybe 40 million, 50 million, that are concerned about the future and agitated at the incompetence and the dangerous turn that's happening in the revolution that has happened on their watch. And they can be mobilized, and I believe they shall be mobilized. Mercedes, what are the people saying? Are you paying attention?
Yes,
or are you texting? Are you doing
paying
TikTok?
attention.
I never know what you're doing over there, young lady. You could be doing something else.
Responding to the comments, and the one I was responding to is Michael Baker, and it says, Lance, I'm going to double my monthly contribution this month. And I said, Michael, thank you so much. What a huge blessing. I pray God richly blesses you. So send. So that's what I was working on. What a huge blessing, right? Okay, so other questions, other comments. Maureen Cowley wrote back earlier. Trump is going to appeal. According to his attorney, Dershowitz says he should have an easy win on the appeal. So there we go.
Oh, well, that's a relief. Doesn't that make you sleep better?
Doesn't it?
It's a shame this guy is to pay $5 million to someone he never, in all likelihood, he never met. Who's going to be the next person that's going to accuse him or Kavanaugh or something?
Yeah, well, that I'm back to the Twitter thing. I'm wondering if this is going to drive a lot of conservatives to Twitter, because I know a lot of people laugh. Like, I don't really enjoy going on Twitter. You do a lot on Twitter, but
I don't get any response on Twitter. Yeah. I'll tell you what. Why am I there? Why am I even there? I mean, because if I go on the other platforms, I have a larger audience. Clearly, got like over 1 million people subscribed or something on Facebook. But what I'm saying is, on Twitter, I'll get like 2 comments, 3 comments, 5 retweets. It's hilarious, actually. I think I do it just because Twitter is a platform where I get to sample public opinion more objectively. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, go to lancewallnau.com. Where am I? Lance Wallnau on Twitter? WALLNAU?
Or at Lance Wallnau.
At Lance Wallnau. At Lance Wallnau. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because now that Tucker's over there, you know what I wish they had? I wish they were bringing back Periscope. I had the biggest hoot with the Periscopians. I remember it late at night. We'd have thousands of us there. And I'd be walking the floor doing the late night Lance rants during the Trump battle era of getting him elected. Anyway, breaking news. Natalie Winters. Natalie Winters is the sweetheart of the war room these days. And I think it's an earned status because she represents your generation of smart women who can play hardball, Mercedes, and get the job done.
There we go.
Tribute to you guys. Natalie Winters has a scoop. The House Oversight will prove tomorrow that Biden engaged in an influence peddling scheme as vice president from 2015 to 2017. I'm checking on my camera, guys. You guys looking at when I'm going on this other camera?
There we go.
You guys got to pay attention. When I go over here, are you ready? No, you're slow. When I go over here, are you ready?
There we go.
When I go over here, are you ready? Fake job?
Oh!
All right. House oversight will prove tomorrow that Biden engaged in an influence peddling scheme as vice president from 2015 to 2017. We're going to add music to the program. In order to engage you late at night, I'll be playing some of your favorite songs.
I think we should do like a request. Like I think people should
Do you have
put in
any
the comments requests. People don't know how great you are that you can play from
I actually
here.
am a keyboard impresario. Back in the early days of my life, I would entertain Annabelle with all the latest hits. The scoop is the Bidens received over $1 million from a Romanian firm led by individuals accused of corruption. Gabriel Popoviciu, through a Biden associate. All right, I'm running out of time here. That doesn't mean I'm running out of interest in you. I read your comments. I'm going to be looking for your comments. Make sure you like and subscribe and share. And am I going on, Mercedes, or
It's
am I?
up to you. What do you want to do?
Well, you know, the reality is, I didn't get to the fact that there's going to be big breaking news because they're coming after Biden tomorrow. They're coming after him tomorrow. And I'll tell you what, the White House is already preparing. You know what they're doing? You know what the White House is doing? They're doing their check number 8 out, guys. You got number 8 ready? Biden pulls out his handy wheel of distraction to deflect from the latest scandal. Biden pulls out his handy. There we go. You got to be faster. I'm going to train my team. Biden pulls out his handy wheel of distraction. Now, what's on that? You got to see it. UFOs, January 6th. Book bans. We have a new pandemic. Democracy is under attack. You know, billionaires are not paying their fair share. And this is like, I'm telling you guys something. There's truth in them there hills. Mm-hmm. We're becoming educated on the game they're playing. And the game isn't going to work, Mercedes. I think we're going to be able to call out their game. And, you know, I want to go now. We can edit this program for RAV, right?
Well,
we can end the program for RAV.
Yeah.
And I can go to the whiteboard, the clear board, and just kind of real quick throw something out there, right?
Well, can I say, because, we'll edit this later, but if we are recording the RAV show for Saturday, everybody, it's on Saturdays.
Hey, we're on Saturday at what time?
At 8.
8 a.m.
8 Central, 9 Eastern.
And Daystar. Oh, yes. For all of you that are up at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning, you can't sleep at night. You're watching Mike Lindell's commercials. Hey, I'm on 1 o'clock in the morning on Daystar. They gave me the evening shift just to keep you awake. Okay, so if you want, like for RAV, we're going to need 2 more segments. So 2 more 12-minute segments. Do you want to keep going in this broadcast and go to the board for 12 minutes? What do you want to do? We're going to come right back now, and I'm going to go over to the board. I want to explain something. I want to explain to you how culture is formed. Now, listen, don't hit the snooze button now. I'm always trying to educate my folks, the people that are working with me, to understand how the game is played. You heard what Tucker Carlson said? He said, you think you're getting the news, you're not getting the news. You're getting a manipulated soundbite. It passes the test of a distorted truth, but it isn't actually the truth. I read a book years ago, and I want to go to the board over here. It's the clear board. I used to call it the white board, but it's the clear glass board. And here's what I want to show you. It's just a picture, but a picture. Do you know, Mercedes, that when you have a picture, it increases your IQ like 10 points on the subject because it engages a visual as well as a, auditory. You could hear it, but you see it. You see it and you hear it. And so that's why images are so powerful and important. So I'm going to go over to the board now. I'm going to the board. I'm walking to the board. And here I am over at the board. And I want to show you, I read this book. Years ago. Am I talking to this camera here?
Yep.
So I read this. How close can I get? Can I get really close?
That's too close. That's going to be too close.
Okay. So I read this book a couple years ago, Change the Culture, Change the Game. This is written by 2 brilliant guys who are talking about how to change culture. Culture's not easy to change. It's very, very hard. Look, America is going through a cultural free fall, flailing away because we haven't understood how to shape culture. Trust me, we got billions of dollars and millions of prayers going up into the stratosphere for America But the left has succeeded in changing culture, not us. And there's a strategy to how Lenin and Marxists or fascists, which are always accusing us of being, but they're the totalitarian fascists. They like government to control you. The true conservative, the true revolutionary wants less government, smaller government, not a behemoth that controls everything. But I want you to see, change the culture, change the game, or change the game and change the culture. I want you to see how cultures form. It's so powerful. This is how a life is formed. Hopefully, you'll be able to see this. I'm very careful with these pens. You know why? Because they're like paint, and they splash. And I'm always afraid I'm going to get the splash down live on my clothes one night. But, all right, so tell me, is the pink showing up? Mm-hmm. Pink showing up?
Looks great.
Yes?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to call this culture one. This is one culture here. I'm going to put that pen down. I'm going to go to the orange pen. Let's see how the orange works. Woo, no splash yet. Now watch this. This is how the game is played. Your life and the way that you, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to call this culture one over here, but I'm going to make this like a face. So culture one over here is your life is based on the experiences. Think about this. The experiences you have. So an event takes place. Let's take George Floyd. Let's take January 6th. Let's take the space shuttle. Let's take the Kennedy assassination. Let's take a speech given by a president. I don't care what the experience is. Your interpretation of that experience is going to be shaped by how you process it. So, 9/11 was an experience. I happen to have been with a weird situation, a Palestinian radical at a management conference in Hawaii who was rejoicing over Osama bin Laden's punching out the United States. Needless to say, the guy almost got lynched because I had a group of New York people who work in the World Trade Center with me. Their friends are dying, and this guy is going, yeah, now you see how we're getting you back. Oh my gosh, it was like a meltdown. Interesting leadership experience there, because what we had to do is we had to figure out how to get him to see the world through the lens of empathy with us, and we had to also understand how this guy could be thinking like this. The point is, your experiences, his experience and my experience were totally different based on what you believe. You guys catching this? What you believe about your experience. So, let me say, you're in poverty and you're an African-American kid and you're in Chicago. If you're being taught by the teachers, by the news, and by the teachers that you are a victim of white racism, that belief becomes the lens. This is why propaganda is so powerful. That's the lens through which you see reality. Now when you see poverty, now when you see crime, look, they just had this situation where a guy has 41 arrests and like one outstanding convictions. Violent crimes, bashing people, doing structural skeletal damage permanently to 65 and 66-year-old victims. This raging guy is being presented as a saint because a decade ago, he was hustling in the subways trying to do Michael Jackson dance moves to make money, but he kept on going to schizophrenic meltdown. He kept on getting demonically taken over, being violent, scary, getting arrested. But now he's being positioned as a saint, because if you want to believe what Ocasio-Cortez says, through the news and through the teachers and through the politicians, he is a victim. And the guy who's saving the lives of other people, a black man, Hispanic man, and a white guy holding him down. The white Marine is now being charged with manslaughter, putting him in a submission hold to keep him from attacking anyone. He was threatening everyone there. He said, I don't care if I go to prison. I don't care if I die. Well, you wouldn't feel very comfortable with a guy with 40 arrests in your face yelling at you on a train or a subway, right?
Hey, Lance, switch out the blue pen.
Switch out the blue?
Yeah, the blue on the blue is going to work. We got to hide that one.
The blue goes live.
Real-time feedback.
Political, teachers, news, They work together to create the belief system that interprets January 6th. January 6th was a frustrated, mostly peaceful, legitimately. You didn't see buildings burned. You didn't see limos on fire. You didn't see the 6 people that died because none of them were because of violence that were committed by MAGA people. January 6th was a manipulated insurrection experience. January 6th was a protest over election integrity. That was because people believe it to be insurrection. When Tucker challenged the narrative, what happens is people make their decisions. How's the green?
Much better.
People make decisions based on their beliefs. So watch how this goes. Your experiences happen, but experiences don't make you or break you. What you believe about your experience makes or breaks you. I remember I worked with a guy in the ministry years ago. His brother, twin brother, is in prison. What happened? He committed a murder. And then the guy I was working with, Jeff, in Harlem, he said, I came home one day, saw the chalk mark on and the yellow tape, and my brother had killed a guy in Harlem. And I made a decision, I'm not going to go that way. And he went on to Brown University, became an ordained clergy, has his own church right now. I said, you're twins? And it reminds me of a poem. One ship sailed east, one ship sailed west, impelled by the self-same blow. It was the set of the sail and not the windy gale that determined which way they'd go. The set of your sail is the beliefs you have, which is why the Judeo-Christian belief in the Bible produces the kind of stability to society that creates a great flourishing society. Which is why the belief in the cross and redemption or forgiveness of man's fallen nature, and a belief ultimately in a judgment for our behavior, these 3 things produce stability and flourishing responsibility and the capacity for checks and balances that make a nation great. The destruction of belief in the ultimate integrity of the Word of God as being credible, of the reality of Jesus Christ and redemption, and of ultimate accountability for an immortal soul. The destruction of that, the failure and the belief in being nothing more than a survival of the fittest, kind of coming out of a jungle, you're primate, and really, where's the moral sense in the universe? You got to have a hard time trying to create moral accountability with creatures just going to die and maybe evolve and come back again. My point is this: your experiences are nothing until you create a belief system. Those belief systems produce decisions, and the decisions produce results. And right now you've got a nation drowning in debt. You're a nation that is being divided in racism. You're a nation suffering from sexual chaos. And all of that is because belief systems have been taken over in the political mountain, in the media mountain, in the academic mountain, or I'll put it this way, in the academy, in the education, in government, and in media. These 3 strongholds are shaping beliefs in the generation we're in, and as a result, the decisions we're making are suicidal. The results are culture is becoming balkanized. People are going at each other's throats, and the nation is in a free fall. Economically, our borders are wide open, ruptured because of the selfishness of big corporations and the Democratic Party that wants those votes, and the big corporations that want cheap labor, and the fecklessness and the inefficiency and the compromise of local state leaders who don't want to have a backbone to protect their own backyard. That's changing. There is a populist movement rising. That's the good news. America is rising. Because our experiences are no longer being controlled by these elements. We now have media like this. We have broadcasts. We have our own political leadership. And now we're going to see a whole renaissance in teaching. Record numbers of people are taking their kids out of the public school system, putting them into private school, or putting them into their own homeschooling situation. And I think that we're going to see a change even in the school boards because parents are getting engaged. I think America is experiencing a shaking now where the challenge in academia, the challenge in media, and the challenge in politics is going to be alternate systems are going to rise up and compete with the narrative and the authority of this false belief because it doesn't work. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I look forward to all of you, you guys' comments. Give me your likes, your subscribes. Share this with other people. I'm going to read what you have to say. Tell me about what you want us to talk about in the future. And remember, the name of that book is Change the Culture, Change the Game, or Change the Game, Change the Culture. And your experiences shape your beliefs. Your beliefs form your decisions, and your decisions lead to the results you get. We'll be back in a moment.
Okay, but we're really here.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets, sleepwear, dog bed.
Whoa, Charles. Everyone now can get MyPillow products at huge discounts at MyPillow.com. That's right. Now's the time to go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our 3-in-1 sale. We're bringing you exciting new products, overstock specials, and closeout deals you won't find anywhere else. For example, when you buy one of our brand new MyPillow 2.0s, you get another one absolutely free. And with our overstock sale, you save 50% on our luxurious Giza Dream bed sheets. That's as low as $29.99 for the best sheets ever. And with our biggest closeout special, you get our all-season slippers for only $35. Or our sandals and slides for just $25. Quantities are limited, and once they're gone, they're gone.
Welcome back. Welcome back. How is that? How is the see-through experience there? I was wearing my see-through board tonight.
It's a mixed bag over here. People like it, but it's still a little challenging to see.
Well, because we got to fix it. We had to put something solid behind it. I mean, that's the problem.
Well, the thing is, if we put a drape, we've tried a few things. We put a drape or like some sort of something back there. It makes the board really reflective. So then you see all the lights and you see all the cameras. So we need to figure out a different thing further back.
Well, Daystar figured it out. That's where I saw it.
They also have, Daystar has a giant
Of course,
set
they have $1
and
million
building.
set budget. I know that I'm working here off of the tithes and offerings of the widows and orphans. Thank you very much.
But, I wanted to say, though, before you go to the next thing, that I love that model because I think it also really reflects the salvation experience. And for like the revival crowd that we have that watches us, I think that's that experience, that encounter moment that you have with God. Like when I became a Christian or when you became a Christian, we both got zapped, like I remember having such a infilling of what I now know is the Holy Spirit. But I was so like, whoa, like God's real. And I'm talking to people, I'm like, did you know God was real? And it really challenged me. My whole belief system changed. And then the decisions I was making and then my life as a result changed. So I just think it's great for corporate culture and system reform, but also just the personal salvation experience.
Well, now that I know I have another segment, I'll be honest with you. I thought that was the end of the program because my son came up and we should get the camera on him at some point. No? He says no. But he comes up and he holds up 1 minute. And I thought, but it's over. I'm going to go back over to the can't see clear board.
Oh, are you?
I'm going back over right now.
Okay.
Because what you're saying is the other part of the change the culture, change the game.
Mm.
Can we do that for a second, folks?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Will you come back and play a song
I'll tell you what I'm
later?
going to do. Carl, will you do me a favor? Will you go clear the board up and wipe it clean? Because the problem with the glass board is it is not as easy to work with as the dry erase.
Do you want a challenging comment?
Challenging comment. Go ahead. I don't know.
Model?
Your job is to filter the comments. Vivek Ramaswamy, smart guy. I'm learning how to pronounce his name. That's why Mercedes is laughing at me. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking about last night when I was like, anyways, it's okay. So this guy says, and I don't know how to pronounce his username here it's on YouTube.
Well, maybe he doesn't want his username known.
No,
I've had people that get embarrassed when I point them out.
Peer-to-peer therapy is the name of it. That's what it is. I thought it was some like Peter something. Anyways, okay. The flaw in this teaching of the Seven Mountain Mandate is that God may do his work any way that he sees fit. You have no direct command in Scripture to seek positions of influence in society, only that you tell people about the good story of Christ Jesus. God uses anyone, regardless of how high on the mountain you think you sit. And I thought it was a great comment for you to clarify some of the Seven Mountain teaching.
Several flaws in my friend's comment. I'll point out the first and most obvious one, which is this kind of passive apathy towards influence, leadership, and responsibility. If God gives you, according to the teachings of Jesus, 5 talents, you should be multiplying talents. You shouldn't be just laying them aside and giving him some interest when he returns. That's actually what got one guy in trouble, who just didn't invest the talents God gave you. You should be making the most of the present opportunity in order to do all the good you can for as many people as you can. It's a life of extraordinary industry. And if you are not called to be a preacher and a teacher, but you have gifts in music, then use your music to glorify God. If you're a writer, use your writing gifts. If you're a juror, a lawyer, use your legal acumen. If you're a filmmaker, make films and utilize the talent you have. Here's this idea that Christians aren't supposed to be influential when you're called to be salt and light. A city set on a hill that can't be hid is ridiculous. You look at the Old Testament. Joseph rules over Egypt. Daniel becomes the #1 Jewish consultant and advisor to 4 separate administrations of foreigners. There's not a single story in the Bible of a person who gave their life to God that God then squeezed out of them some enormous measure of impact that came out as a result of their existence. Now, the Bible says, if any man desires the office of a bishop, he desires a good thing. Why would God say that? According to this person's theory, no one should really have an ambition to desire anything other than to serve God and share the gospel. This guy, Paul says, if anyone desires the office of an overseer, he desires a good thing. So if you have a desire and an ambition on the inside, one of the things that I find has hurt the church tremendously, Mercedes, is I've seen, and I've set people free in this sense. They have a desire to be able to make money. They have a desire to be able to be famous. They have a desire to be able to invent something, have a cure, or create something. And then they encounter this idea, which I think is really a religious thing, which is, well, you should be dead to that, and all you should really be doing is focusing on the next life and getting your own life together and sharing the gospel and getting people to church. And what that does is it fails to tap into the nature of the real challenge, which is not to deny that you want to make money, but to sanctify your motives for making money and what you do with the money you make. If God gave you a gift for wealth creation, you shouldn't say, well, I'm just going to try to suppress it and put on a chastity belt and live in poverty. That's what a religious spirit does. The far better is for you to say, God has placed a desire in me. God can take the desire from me. But if God put the desire in me, then I'm going to sanctify that desire. I'm going to submit it to God so that I can actually utilize my gifts for wealth creation. And get this, I'm going to make all the wealth I can live on as little of it as necessary and give the rest of it to philanthropic enterprise to change the world. That's a person who's using their gifts correctly. And I guess what I'm saying is this strange and bizarre disconnect that Christians have from this life that renders them almost irrelevant to the challenges of life is one of the reasons why we have 35 million born-again Christians in America that make up, let's just put it this way. We have a Republican Party, for instance, that has like 40% of it is evangelical, but the other half of the church doesn't even vote. So that means that you could literally be changing America in terms of litigation, legislation, and public opinion, but half of you won't register to vote because you're like I was. If I sound a little bit opinionated about this, because I understand where that view is. I was the rich young ruler. I left my father's home. I grew up in the oil industry. I was trained in the courts of Wall Street. I worked I had a career path made out for me to make money. And I felt when I became a Christian that my greatest and highest calling was to take a vow of poverty, to move into the inner city in Philadelphia and start planting churches and evangelizing on street corners. I am the card-carrying, proof of absolute youthful dedication and devotion to radically following Jesus. Except I discovered at some point that I had to make enough money for my wife and for my kids, so I started learning how I could do business on the side while I did my ministry, and found out that I had actual gifts in business, that God wasn't calling me out of separating me from my gifts and passions, he was separating me unto a higher purpose for those gifts and passions. And I'm telling you right now, if you have the call of an artist, if you have a call to be known, to be a singer, to be influential, you have to sanctify the desire. That's what the Bible calls it. Set it apart and purify it so that it serves the higher purpose. But God didn't call you there's a difference between a circumcision and a castration. Circumcision is the removal of fleshly ambition. That's the symbol of it in the Bible. But castration is the cutting off of your procreative capacity. God isn't asking you to cut off your ability to utilize your gifts, talents, and influence. He's asking you to sanctify it so that it serves a higher purpose. Okay. Sing happy birthday to Annabelle. She's holding up a card. You know, today's my wife's birthday. Today is Annabelle's birthday.
I just thought it would be a nice surprise. We could all sing. Well, I can't sing, but you could sing happy birthday and everybody in the comments.
Happy birthday to you.
Do the song. You got a piano next
the piano?
to you.
How do you know? I don't even know how to play.
Oh, please.
Day to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Annabelle. Happy birthday to you.
That's amazing, Lance.
Happy birthday, Annabelle. To my dear wife, here I am in the studio. Tonight's her birthday. I really should be going home. And so in 1 minute and 39 seconds, I will be making my exit to go see my dear wife. But in the meantime, I want to cover one more question that's from our studio audience or from our audience. Do you have another question? Did I satisfy that question?
Yeah, I think so. Heidi, which is a random one, but wonders, what are all the dolls on your desk?
Okay, the dolls on my desk. Remember, Tucker Carlson had a book, and it's called Ship of Fools, and it's an interesting cover. We should bring it up at some point in post-editing. But it's a book he wrote about all the fools and the elites. What's interesting is he's an elite. People don't realize this. But Tucker Carlson is from the Swanson family. On both his mother and his father's sides, they're multimillionaires. So he was born elite, went to private schools and everything, but never got the corruption. He somehow was intellectually curated so that he didn't become the stuck-up, woke, leftist snob that is so characteristic of so many other of the elite class. So what happened was I started collecting these little dolls because this is the ship right here. Whoop, Nancy Pelosi. So I don't know how these happened, but they were buying these, and I started collecting. So Biden and Kamala Harris and these are the individuals that are shaping. These are the people that are leading and shaping the United States experience. And from COVID to open borders to massive debt, we have to the Pelosi's disgraceful tearing up of the State of the Union in front of the country. These are the people. So I put them on my desk so I could play little skits with them when I'm bored. And I'll show you what some of those skits are. We're going to do them in the future. Well, anyway, what?
I just want to get one thing in. Just one thing. I want to start this new thing called Lance's Toy Box. And I want people to send toys in and explain how you want Lance to use them on the show, and we'll send them to the P.O. Box. So I'll put the P.O. Box in the comments, or if you're on the podcast, it's P.O. Box 2688, Keller, Texas 76244. And I think it would be so great if people sent fun toys in, because I literally want to get you like a toy box.
Give me a toy box, and then I can show you how I have my little skits here that I do with my characters. We'll bring the cameras up close so you can see me doing them, and we'll have our.
When you open your heart to patriotism, there is no room for prejudice.
Isn't that true? You want to get your Trump doll, by the way. What can they do to get the Trump doll?
Oh, I think it's lancewallnau.com/Trump doll.
I have a couple of these left.
What?
Talking Trump. lancewallnau.com/Talking Trump. This is Talking Lance, and I'm looking forward to hearing Talking Tucker now that he's going to be on Talking on Twitter. And I encourage you all, with God's blessings, look forward to reading your comments, and I'm sure that many of you are wishing Annabelle a happy birthday to Belle. And I'm sure that you know she loves you. God bless you all. See you later.
The spirit of betrayal is now getting broken off your business,
Every experience,
broken off your finance,
every challenge,
getting broken off your marriages.
every triumph has been preparing you for this moment.
The Lord is taking territory in his people and where his people live.
Join us for Dream Trip 2023 in Carlsbad, California, where you will unlock your door to destiny,
There is a hunger for awakening.
gain clarity,
The challenge is that many of us don't understand where that awakening is going to take us.
align with your purpose,
And a true awakening of the nature of which God is sending isn't just for our own personal refreshing or revitalization.
and receive the commission to move forward boldly.
It's actually to shift and to change the status quo.
Through immersive experiences, you will be equipped with tools and resources to help you unlock your full potential. Join us for Dream Trip 2023 in Carlsbad, California. Your time is now. Don't miss out on this life-changing experience.